The first impression of your project should be something that's really clear to us as assessors. We do the assessments within our business unit. First impressions, the description actually helps the whole of your application hang together. So sometimes it can actually be good to wait until the end of your application process to write your description. Because what we see often is the description's written and it's an idea and it's a summary of an idea, but by the time you've worked through the other elements in the application process, sometimes the description doesn't quite actually match what's in the project application. So I would suggest leaving that till last so that what you're putting down as the description is clear and succinct and makes sense for what you've put in the application. We also use the descriptions that you provide, and often we have to modify because of that issue. They get used to help promote the program. It gets put on our website, those who are successful in getting funding. So you will have noticed if you've been a council successful in getting a grant from us, the description you initially provided in an application that was successful might look different as we've written it or as we've summarised it as we believe it to be after assessing the actual application. Now, just spend a bit more time talking about the identifying and understanding the problem that I touched on before. Anything that's relevant to the context of your problem, please include in the application. So that's the way the problem presents itself, the history of the area, some demographics of the area, where does the problem happen, describe the situation or the context it's happening in. Is it an isolated area? Is it poorly lit? Is it an area frequented by young people? Is it an area that could be better utilised if this problem wasn't happening? So it means that some people in the community actually aren't using this particular site because of the issues there. Are people changing their behaviour in the community because of this problem, as in avoidance behaviours and so on? Or are other people using it, that space, for not legitimate reasons, as antisocial behaviour happening, potentially, or other issues that are happening alongside graffiti? With the evidence available about the problem, often councils particularly will immediately leap to Victoria Police statistics. If you've got them, that's fine, but that's just one form of evidence. We can't highlight enough to you. There are lots of other forms of evidence that you have at your disposal as councils. You'll have safety audits or surveys or reports, your works programs when they're going out to do removal of graffiti. You'll have great knowledge of the actual issue across council and the evidence for that across council, or across anecdotally from community partners and so on. Community partners who have got an interest in this, it'll be because they're experiencing the problem in some way, so they'll have some evidence as well. You might have photographs, you might have any other means of evidence to help us to know that the problem is actually a problem for you. That helps us to really know that you've understood the problem and you're more likely therefore to have a good response to the problem. Decide what it is you want to achieve. Again, make sure things are clear and realistic, measurable, they're action-oriented. Remember, the grants don't go over a long period of time for you to deliver them. So they need to be, the response needs to be quite, clear in what it's going to deliver or what you're going to deliver within a fairly short time frame. But we want some long-term outcomes as well, hence why we suggest or have it as a key criterion, the partnering with community groups and organisations, because we know that if you're partnering with community, you're likely to have sustained outcomes into the future. With your performance measures, again, be specific and be realistic with those. Ensure that whatever you're putting in aligns with the grant objectives as well. Elizabeth talked about the community partners. The only thing that I'd like to add there is just ensuring that there's a fit between the partner and the problem and solution, and provide some clear evidence about the role of the partner, not just a letter of support that maybe is a form letter that you've sent out to make it easy for someone to sign and fill in and send back to us, but let that letter indicate the level of commitment from them, their roles and responsibilities, because that tells us they're actually a true partner with you in the project delivery. With your partners, ensure that they're appropriate to do the solution that you're wanting. If you've got a hot, cold, high, pressure system on a trailer and chemicals, you wouldn't want children being the ones to actually do the removal of graffiti in those circumstances. With matching the solution to the problem, we really want your project to be successful. We really want to get good applications, and we want to get the money out that's been set aside for improving the amenity within the Victorian community and context. So we really want your project to be successful, and we want to support you to have a successful project. One of the ways we try and do that early on in the process through the assessment phase of the grants is identifying, or us helping to identify, the best solution to your problem and issue. So if there's a real mismatch, that'll get picked up in our assessment processes. We have a matrix that we use. It's pretty standard. Councils also deliver grants to the community, and you have to go through assessment of those before you give those grants out. So the sorts of things we're looking for from you are a demonstration that you've actually thought about other alternative solutions, potentially a matching of solutions. If you've got, I'll just pick a fairly standard example of graffiti on a toilet block that's in an isolated area. It's quite a dark area. You might want to get some equipment that will help you to remove that graffiti, but you might also want to consider, do we need to redesign this toilet block? Do we need to increase lighting at the toilet block? What else do we need to do to make that a more usable space, or used space for legitimate purposes? So again, thinking through those different parts of your solution and how best they'll fit. Ensuring, of course, that the response is commensurate to the problem. If you've got isolated graffiti happening, your community might not be one that has lots of tagging. You wouldn't necessarily want a trailer for $25,000. It might be more appropriate for you to start with portable removal kits and systems. As I said earlier, whatever's in your application that you will deliver, that's what you're being assessed on. Very competitive grant rounds for all of our grants, and graffiti is no exception. Because it's so competitive, it's really important that councils do deliver on what they've said they're going to do, because otherwise they might not have got the grant in the first place. With your budget, again, make sure it's clear. The expenditure items you've got listed make sense. You need quotes or detailed cost breakdowns included. If you've chosen something more expensive, justify that in the units per cost. The justification should be easy if you've got your problem well identified and the solution matching the problem. We don't have an issue with a more expensive option being taken. It's up to you as councils to put in a rationale for that. There's resources available to everyone online. The websites are here, and as I said, the presentations will be made available to you.